It just amazes me to think that Channel 1 will do a good job covering a story on the air, but yet on the website, when there's a major breaking news story, they're just going to put it off and bury it. So, what am I referring to this morning that everybody is so worked up over in Queens? Well, I will get into that right now. There was a shootout. Of course. And nothing about it on Channel 1's website. You want proof? Here's the proof right here. You know, it's so obvious what they're gearing to. I will give them credit, though. I will give them credit that at least they did talk about the duck sauce killer, and we're going to get into that as we go along here. But at the very end of this video, we are going to talk about the crime statistics that were released by the NYPD yesterday, and a lot of disturbing stuff that can be blamed primarily on Governor Kathy Hochul and not necessarily on Eric Adams. So, it seems we have another battle of the mayor versus the governor again. More in an interesting way we're going to get into later on. Okay, here we go. This was in Laurelton, so here's what we know. There was an NYPD involved shooting late last night. So this happened right by 219th Street and 130th Avenue. So, according to Chief of Patrol Jeffrey Madry, there was an unmarked car wearing plain clothes. So that explains why the police were wearing plain clothes during their press briefing this morning, from what I was seeing on Channel 7. So, this is interesting. So, 11:35 p.m. last night, a group of men arrived at said party and began firing into the event. So, according to Chief Madry, there were about 75 to 100 people. And the detectives obviously had to get involved. So, thank goodness that this undercover unit, these, detectives who are part of the so-called violent crime squad, and this is the first time I'm ever hearing of this, the violent crime squad. Weren't these the old weapons narcotics unit that Mayor Giuliani had back in the 90s? Now I'm starting to get confused. Okay, after a brief firefight, police brought down 3 of the men with a array of bullet wounds. All 3 men were hurried to a local hospital, 2 of whom are expected to survive. A third man, however, is in critical condition. The detectives who were involved in the shootout were also taken to a medical facility, so obviously, again, Channel 1 decides to ignore this. And 3 handguns were recovered. That's the main details. And of course, the men have prior rap sheets, no surprise there. So again, you can thank bail reform for another example of violence happening in New York City. And as I've said, bail reform is going to be one of the main reasons why I am thinking of leaving New York. Because we don't have a governor who's not going to address the crime. Then, as I said, thank goodness Delaware doesn't have a crazy bail reform law like this, because in Delaware, if you do something serious, guess what? The penitentiaries are much stricter in Delaware than New York. And this is coming from somebody who knows a lot about our nation's first state more than Joe Biden does. So just keep that in mind. Okay. So, thankfully, in the papers, they did bring up the duck sauce killer who committed suicide. But what we're going to do is read from my hometown paper, the Queens Courier. Because I rather would read from them than hear about New York One briefly blab on about it and then move on to nonsensical stuff that I just don't have the patience to deal with. So here we go. Briarwood man charged in murder of Chinese food delivery worker in Forest Hills, has committed suicide. So this is what we know. Glenn Hirsch, also known as the Duck Sauce Killer, the man charged in the April 30th murder of a Chinese food delivery man in Forest Hills, which gained a lot of national attention, committed suicide yesterday morning, Friday, August 5th. His attorney has confirmed this news with the Queen's Courier. Mr. Hirsch was 51 at the time of his death. According to the 107 precinct, Mr. Hirsch's body was discovered in his apartment at about 10:06 a.m. yesterday morning. Hirsch's attorney confirmed that the suicide was committed by a gunshot wound. So, we obviously know what happened. We don't need to get into that because, again, mind you, this was also discussed on Fox News. So, you want to talk about national attention. This definitely gained a lot of national attention. So, we're going to briefly read a statement from Queens District Attorney Melinda Katz. The loss of a human being is always tragic. Obviously, we would have preferred to try Mr. Hirsch for the calculated murder of Mr. Si-Won Yang in a court of law in Kew Gardens. But this is no longer an option. We once again express our deepest condolences to the family and friends of Mr. Si-Won Yang, who continue to grieve his tragic and senseless loss. So, all I know is that this guy could have been facing 25 to life, but, you know, we're never going to find out what made his anger built up over the duck sauce. But I heard from Joy Jung, who was one of our viewers, that violence against fast food workers are actually on the rise in New York City. So what we're going to do right now, and I'm just going to make sure that the cable input is on here. We're going to watch this video that Joy Jung sent over to me. And this is a very important video, and it has a lot to do with how it's getting hostile for these fast food workers. You know, you're getting minimum wage. You're in a very unique circumstance. You know, I feel bad for these guys. You know, they're trying to make a decent living. They're trying to have their own battles against inflation, and, you know, this is what they have to deal with. So, let's watch the video from Fox 5.
Minimum wage workers are often on the wrong end of these attacks. Sharon Crowley has more now on whether anything is being done to protect these workers.
The murder of 23-year-old McDonald's worker Matthew Webb is the most recent case of a fast food worker being a victim of violence on the job. Police say an angry customer's son shot Webb outside the Bed-Stuy restaurant Monday for serving cold fries.
If your french fries was cold, all you had to do was ask for some hot fries, you know. Not to go score your son.
Webb's killing is the latest in a string of headline-grabbing crimes against fast food workers. Last month on the Lower East Side, 3 women jumped over the counter, stole cash, and threw things at the Bell Fries workers, apparently upset about getting charged for extra sauce. In January, police say a homeless man killed an East Harlem Burger King cashier, 19-year-old Crystal Bayron Nieves, during a robbery. A few months later, a few blocks away in East Harlem, a McDonald's worker was stabbed multiple times, fending off an unruly customer.
Security should be a required component to ensure the safety of not just the patrons and the workers that are there, but us as a society as a whole, because who doesn't patronize fast food restaurants?
Darren Porcher is a former NYPD lieutenant. He says these fast food chains need to use their big profits to improve security for these minimum wage workers, often working late hours and alone.
What they need to do is revolutionize the security mechanism they have in place.
Federal officials say certain things can increase the risk of violence in the workplace, and sometimes minimum wage fast food workers have a number of those conditions present, including working late hours alone at night. Sharon Crowley, Fox 5 News.
That was a very good report by Fox 5, and again, thank you to Joy Jung for sending me that video, but you know, as I've said, and two factors before we move on. You know, bottom line is there needs to be security. I do agree with that person who they interviewed for that story. You know, I would feel a lot more safer if the McDonald's on Northern Boulevard by Osnum Hall has security, because we have security in Osnum. All right, you don't get in unless you have proof of vaccination and you take a COVID test. We're still requiring that at Osnum. And, you know, the fact that it's beyond discouraging to think that, you know, this is our only McDonald's in Bayside. You know, we used to have the other one on Bell Boulevard. And the other one is further down in Douglaston. So it's like, big profit should be going into security. Alright? And bottom line is, and if I had to go fries, that's because I bring my lunch into Osnum. Because, you know, what if there's an emergency? Because I have been in Osnum recently during an emergency trill. You know, I mean, I don't want to get double crossed and be like, oh, well, I got takeout and, you know, I'm out of the building and I gotta wait until the building emergency drills are over. It's like, I had that happen to me a couple months ago when I was eating lunch. You know? That's why we have a microwave. I guess some people don't have that luxury. Okay. So before I ramble on and go off topic, we're going to discuss the other stories that once again Channel 1 did ignore. So, a lot of news in Queens. Obviously, we're going to read the news in Queens first, then we're going to play a video from Channel 4, and then we're going to talk about the crime stats for July. So, first up, in Ridgewood, shoe store was burglarized. Here we go. So this happened last Saturday. Police from the 104th Precinct in Ridgewood are looking for a man who broke into a Myrtle Avenue shoe store last Saturday, July 27th, and made off with merchandise and cash. This incident happened at the basement gate of Fabco Shoes at 54-16 Myrtle Avenue just after 7:30. So no surprise, this is right by Bushwick. Once inside, the man picked up an orange Fabco shopping bag and began to fill it with numerous bags and wallets of the store's shelves, police said. He also took a cash register containing $65 in cash before taking off in an unknown direction. So, they do have a good look at this guy. Yeah, they definitely know what he looks like. There's no question. I mean, look at this. You're trying to curb the inflation rush. Buy one, get one. That's a good deal. But I guess this guy just wants to take everything in sight and put it in the bag. Yep. So here's the suspect description. So, suspect has a dark complexion, probably around 5'2", 5'3" maybe. Short hair and a beard, and wore a blue t-shirt, dark shorts, and orange Nike sneakers. So, you know, this is what I mean. The Queen's Courier should at least give a height. You know, that way we know how tall this guy is. Okay. So next up, we're going to go to Massapequa. Another robbery reported. $500 worth of lottery tickets stole from a gas station. So here we go. Police are looking for the man who caught on camera snatching more than $500 worth of lottery tickets from a Shell gas station on the border of Massapequa and Elmhurst back in July. Crime Stoppers released surveillance... I hate this technical glitch. Okay, let's start from the sentence again. Crime Stoppers Thursday released surveillance video of the unidentified man inside at the Shell gas station at 74-01 Grand Avenue within the confines of the 104 precinct just before 4 a.m. on Thursday, July 14th. According to the 104 precinct, they say the man had picked up the lock of the front door before gathering more than $500 of lottery tickets and fleeing the scene. So, let's see if we can give a good suspect description. Hate technology malfunctioning. Okay, here we go. So let's give you a suspect description. So the suspect was seen wearing gray sneakers, looks like a gray jacket, dreadlock hair, dark complexion, probably I'd say around 5'6" tall, from what I'm making out in this surveillance image. So again, they got a good look at this guy. They know who he is. Look at him. He's trying to steal a bunch of scratch-off tickets. Yeah, I think if I'm correct, I think he went behind the register. You're not supposed to do that. Oh, and look at this. He picked the lock of the front door. Yep, that's how he got behind the register, it looks like. Okay. Next up, Queens Village. A failed purse snatching reported by the 105 precinct. And I know the 105 very well, folks. That's the precinct that serves Long Island Jewish. So here we go. Police from the 105 in Queens Village are looking for a failed purse snatcher who tried to rob a woman in broad daylight near Mount Sinai Seventh-day Adventist Church in June. Authorities say that the 34-year-old victim was walking on 217th Street, heading towards 93rd Avenue on the afternoon of Friday, June 10th, when she was approached by a woman who attempted to forcibly take her purse. After a brief struggle, the woman was unsuccessful in stealing the bag and fled the location on foot, empty-handed, heading towards 93rd Avenue. The woman sustained a scratch to her hand and refused medical attention at the scene. So, here's what we know in terms of a female suspect. Police described her as around 40 years old, 5 foot 8 inches tall, and about 120 pounds. So, it says here that she was last seen with dark complexion, full figure, black hair, and brown eyes. She was last seen wearing a white face mask, a pink dress, and sandals. Yeah, so they definitely got a good look of her. Kind of looks grainy, but it's a good way to look out. So, look at this. I mean, you're minding your own business and somebody tries to steal something from you. I mean, this is the way things work in New York, unfortunately. And then lastly, Ozone Park, another robbery. So, notice how I'm going on a constant pattern of robbery with these stories. Because we got one more we're going to read from in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. And you know how I said I wasn't going to talk about Brooklyn? Well, I know a lot about Williamsburg, so I have to talk about what happened over there. So before we get to that, let's read what happened in Ozone Park. So here we go. This happened Wednesday, 107-38 90th Street, within the confines of the 106 precinct. And I know the 106 very well because each and every year they have their annual baseball game against the 107 precinct. So here we go. A 44-year-old male was walking to his vehicle at approximately 12:33 in the morning when 3 unidentified men approached the victim and stabbed him with an unknown object in the back. One of the assailants punched and kicked the victim in the face and body before stealing his belongings and fleeing on foot. The victim was taken to NYC Health Jamaica Hospital in critical condition. Police say the 3 suspects are between the ages of 18 and 25. So, I mean, look at this. Again, you're minding your own business, and all of a sudden, you get assaulted. I mean, really. Again, this is what goes on in New York City. This is what goes on. You know, you can't live your life the way you're supposed to, and these people just think that they can do what they want. Boy, I'm telling you, I mean, this is, again, bail reform at work. All right, I'm sure that these 18-year-olds who first got into the judicial system are now being released and are being sent out again. And maybe this is what Eric Adams is talking about. I don't know. But next up, we're going to play this video of a, yes, believe it or not, 6-year-old girl robbed in one of the safest areas, the so-called safest areas of New York City.
Take a look now at the 3 teen boys in this video from Williamsburg. Police say they punched a 6-year-old girl in the chest and then stole her scooter. Now they are wanted by officers. News 4's Erica Byfield is live in Williamsburg, where she spoke to neighbors about this crime. Erica, what goes through my mind is, why would somebody do something like this?
Jen, we heard so many neighbors asking us that same question today. Police are telling us that that little girl is going to be okay. But again, as you mentioned there, Jen, so many people are asking why anybody would steal from a child.
What is going on with the world? I mean, how could you stoop so low?
Police say that this trio did on the corner of Throop Avenue and Bartlett Street in Brooklyn last week.
I'm speechless because 6 years old.
This is an angle of video that you'll only see on News 4. You see a guy on a bike. His buddies come up behind him. This is Thursday, July 28th, around 5:50 in the afternoon. Eventually, those teens turn left. Detectives say that seconds later, they encountered a 6-year-old girl. One of them punched her in the chest. Then the other 2 swooped in and stole her Razor scooter. The video picks up again as they race down Thorpe. One guy has the scooter in his hands.
I think it's crazy how a little girl came and ride a scooter, like just to have fun. But it's crazy how troublemakers just want to start that for no reason. I feel like it's sad. It's crazy.
Detectives suspect that the attackers are anywhere between the ages of 14 and 16. The photo and these videos are all they have for now. That day, one was in red shorts, another in turquoise shorts. The last one was in gray jeans and a multicolored shirt. The incident has neighbors frustrated, concerned about all the kids in this area.
It's ridiculous because there's a lot of kids around this area, especially on this block alone.
So on Thursday last week when this happened, EMS treated that little girl on the scene, the 6-year-old girl. Detectives are telling us at this point that she did not go to the hospital. But again, they are looking for the public's help to find those 3 teens. In Brooklyn, Erica Byfield, News 4, New York.
So again, this is what goes on, obviously, and you know, this is what we have to worry about. Williamsburg, Brooklyn, normally an area of New York City that has one of the highest Jewish populations. And this 6-year-old girl, again, minding her own business, gets assaulted by teenagers. I mean, the judicial system in this state has really let us down, thanks to a reckless action that Andrew Cuomo caused before he left. So, let's get into the aftermath of Andrew Cuomo. And of course, currently blaming our governor, Kathy Hochul. 30.5% increase of crime last month alone by Crime Stats. So let's get into some of these numbers, shall we? Overall crime increased year overall from 2021 to 2022, 30.5%, 11,619 crimes last month compared to 8,906 in July of last year. Almost every category of crime increased last month with the exception of sexual assault. No, I'm not going to read that word because then YouTube could demonetize the video. So the exception of sexual assault went down from 149 to 142 this year. So that's nothing. And of course, the NYPD acknowledges that sexual assault cases continue to be underreported. Last month, the number of murders increased, so that's homicide. The number of homicides increased year over from 35 in July of 2021 to 47 in July of 2022. Grand larcenies, so that's the robbery category. 40.6% spike from 3,262 crimes in July of 2021 to 4,588 crimes in July of 2022. Burglaries, 25.6%, 1,055 compared to 1,325 in July in 2022. Robberies increased overall 37.2%, July 2021. I will mention that I got the number specifically for 107 Precinct. And again, Officer Jan has been mentioning robberies overall this year in the 107 are up dramatically from this time last year. So I understand that my commanding officer at the 107 is very concerned about these robberies, and I can't blame him. I can't blame him, not one bit. He's deeply disturbed, and I can understand why Officer Jan is honestly concerned. Okay, so here we go. Auto theft incidents increased from 995 from... Oh, look at this! Car thefts are up! Yep! That's another thing that Officer Jan's been talking about. Car thefts are also up in the 107. Auto thefts incidents overall within the precincts, which is 100 something if I can't give an accurate number of all the number of the precincts in New York City, increased from 995 in July of 2021 to 1,256 this year. So that's a 26.2% increase. And mind you, my neighbors in Nassau County, car thefts are also up there huge over there. And I can understand how stressed out Commissioner Pat Ryder is over there. My neighbors in Nassau County are having their cars stolen and are being driven over into New Jersey right now. A lot of these teens who come over from Jersey know that they don't face the consequences in New York because of bail reform. Man, these criminals have gotten so smart. And then look at this. Felony assault. 2,149 crimes. 17.8%. 2,531. So, look at this. Hate crimes. Also up. 50% increase. 54 crimes reported compared to 34% in July of last year. And then the biggest hate crime statistic of them all. Anti-Semitic crimes. 7 crimes reported. 15 anti-Semitic crimes reported. So, do you think Channel 1 would be going over the specifics like I am? And you think nobody knows the 107 precinct better than I do? For my crime stats in my precinct? No! And you got Keechant Sewell being all Showtime. Oh, you know, this is why we need a police commissioner like Bill Pepitone. Because at least Bill Pepitone would be cracking down. He'd be the big sheriff like Pat Ryder is over in Nassau County. Right? That's the type of police commissioner we need for New York City right now. You know? I'll say this. I am very grateful. Chief of Detectives James Isaac is doing a good job. At least he's not like Weakling Dermot. So... This is interesting. 8.7% decrease in the numbers of shootings year to date with 63 fewer shooting victims. So, yeah. So, before I wrap up this video, I will mention for the record that this week and next week I have been invited by Town of Oyster Bay Supervisor Joe Saladino to attend the last 2 concerts at Burns Park. I will be out there tonight, and I will be out there next week. And I'm grateful for Supervisor Saladino for inviting me to come over to see his last 2 concerts that he's hosting. I know this week they got a Bee Gees tribute, and then next week they got the Shared tribute to wrap up the season. And I'll also mention that Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman has invited me to go see Disco Unlimited on Friday, August 26th. I have accepted the invitation, and I will be attending that. So, again, I'm very close with my neighbors in Nassau County. Just like Pine Power LI is one of my neighbors. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. You know, one thing's for sure in Queens, we have to pay attention to what our neighbors in Nassau County are doing. Because they're handling their crime way differently than New York City is right now as a whole. So, I really like to see Nassau County's crime stats. I am really curious to see overall how bad the car thefts are. And don't be fooled by this story trying to direct you from the narrative. Don't be fooled. Don't be fooled, folks. We still have a long way to go before this summer is over. And it was brought to my attention before we wrap up this video. And we're going to look this up. And I'm sure you may have heard about this. I don't know where I can find it. But it was brought to my attention that at the moment, yeah, we'll just go with 538. It was brought to my attention that Kathy Hochul is way ahead right now. I mean, look at this. How in the world was this 49%, and then the latest poll has Hochul up 50? I'm telling you, the way it looks right now, the plan is working. The plan is working, folks. I believe in the Pine Power LI plan. I don't believe in the Great Reset. I said this yesterday. The Great Reset is a BS theory. Alright? This is where I'm going to end up. Alright? Understand this, folks. This is where I'm going to end up. That's right. You figured it out, everyone. You figured it out. The plan's working. This is where I'm going to end up. And it feels like I'm losing this battle. But I feel like I have to keep talking about it until I've completely lost. And it looks like, by the way it looks, I'm going to end up in Wilmington. Obviously, I'm not going to be anywhere near Market Street. But it sure as hell looks like I'm going to be ending up in Delaware. By the time my birthday comes, this is going to be my fate. And I hate that this is the way it looks. And I hate to think this, but I'm going to be in Delaware. Pine Power LI might become Pine Power New Jersey. It looks like it right now. Look at Action Kid. He moved to Miami. So I'm going to keep talking about this. The next 3 months are critical for my survival right now. Until I can get out of here, maybe. Maybe. I don't know how the housing market will look. The housing market has slowed down. Maybe that might be a good thing for me in Delaware. I don't know. But my safety is my main priority right now. Why I want to get out. And trust me, this is how the plan works. This is designed to force us out. Raise the crime, make people leave, and then let New York become an anarchist state. And right now, by the way it looks, New York's certainly going to become a state full of anarchy. So, that's it. I hopefully will be looking forward to the Oyster Bay concerts. I know I'm going to be on the South Shore, but considering that maybe Lee Zeldin can do something, I don't know. The polls are directing something else. 3 months can be different, but I doubt Lee Zeldin's going to be our next governor. And it sounds like the Wicked Witch of Buffalo is going to turn New York into an anarchist state. So, John Carney, you might be seeing me sometime very soon. So that's it.